A very good evening to you and welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice on a Monday night. My apologies for not being on last Monday. I had a bereavement in the family and out of respect, the last thing I really wanted to do was put on a show. So I hope you can understand that. But I'm back, looking forward to bringing you all the latest updates in the West Ham world over the past weekend. You know, there have been a few. Bringing you all the latest updates on player news, injury news, players on loan. They're back. Some of them are back playing football in the Championship. And I'm going to talk a bit about the so-called quick-fire January sale of up to eight players in the squad. And giving my view on that, I find that a little bit amusing. But I'll come to that later on. But first of all, let's briefly reflect on the World Cup. And on the three West Ham players who are still in the World Cup. Of course, it isn't Declan Rice and it isn't Lucas Paqueta, but it is Nikola Vlasic. Congratulations to him, even though he's out on loan at Torino at the moment. He's still a West Ham player contractually. Nikola Vlasic, Alphonse Areola of France, and of course, Naif Aguerd of Morocco. Now, Aguerd, of course, is out injured. Highly unlikely he's going to be playing in the semi-final on Wednesday, but who knows? He might be back for the final. You never know. Each of these players have had quite a mixed World Cup so far. Vlasic, mainly coming off the bench for Croatia, trying to add some attacking impetus to the team, and he's done reasonably well. Areola, yet to play any World Cup finals football at all. He missed his golden opportunity in the group stages because he had a slight knock. The irony, the first two games France won convincingly, and it looked like he might get a chance to play in the final group game, but because of a slight back injury, it wasn't to be. And then, of course, Aguerd, who's probably been, has definitely been one of the best defenders in this World Cup, not just for Morocco, but in the World Cup as a whole. He's been absolutely superb. And I think now we kind of know why David Moyes wanted to spend so much money on this player and make him the number one target in the summer transfer window. Look, he's got a thigh injury. It may or it may not be the end of his World Cup campaign. Apparently, we're told that it's a grade 1 thigh injury, which normally takes a couple of weeks in their own right. So I guess we'll just have to see. But the semi-finals might come a bit too soon for them. But don't discount Morocco. You know, they've only conceded one goal. And the irony is, Aguerd is the one that scored it in the World Cup, an own goal. So who knows? Let's see what happens. Of course, we've got to say commiserations to the two players who a lot of us thought would probably make it all the way through to the end of this World Cup competition. And that, of course, is Lucas Paqueta and Declan Rice. It wasn't to be. Commiserations to both of them. Look, there's no one's going to say how great they've both been. Paqueta, we've seen what he's capable of doing in a deeper midfield role, not the number 10 that I think David Moyes has tried to play him in. You know, when he plays in that, I don't know what you want to call it. What number 4, number 6, number 8 role? Who knows? Deeper midfield role. He has so much time on his hands, and he can find that pass. He keeps the ball moving. If you noticed in the game. The last game Brazil played, he hardly got out of the circle, the center circle. And it's only in the second half when the whole of Brazil moved forward. That's when Paqueta was further upfield, but as a unit rather than the individual himself. Great play. I think he's a fantastic player. And if we use him in the right way, Mr. Moyes, I hope you've been watching the World Cup, then I think he'll be formidable for us alongside Declan Rice. Because he, again, has been one of the standout midfielders, one of the standout players of the World Cup. And you've got to feel sorry for these two players. They are, some of the biggest players on the world stage, probably should have gone through to the next round. But there you go. Will they be back in time for Arsenal? Well, normally, when there's a major competition on, you normally have the players are normally given a few weeks off, 2-3 weeks, something like that. There's no time for that now. And I wonder if FIFA kind of thought of that when they were planning the World Cup to happen in the winter. Probably not. And now it's not just West Ham United that are going to suffer, but every team that's had a player out on the World Cup is going to have to go through the same thing. Do they give players time off? Because there's nothing official. You know, normally, as I said, when it's a summer competition, you'd see the players automatically have quite a few weeks off. And there's that time, isn't there, before the domestic league starts, that players can take that time off. Not to be this time. Our domestic league resumes in 2 weeks' time, 2 weeks tonight, in fact. And so who knows? It sounds like but both Paqueta and Rice will be back with the first team training next week. So they're not likely to take any part in the Fulham friendly on Saturday. Will they be fit? I mean, fit enough? Probably, yeah. Match fit? Probably, yeah. Mindset? I don't know. Will they be ready to for domestic competition in 2 weeks' time? I guess we'll see. I guess they, fitness-wise, as I said, they'll probably be fine. But it's the mental thought. Going out of a major competition like the World Cup, will they be mentally prepared to play? Who knows? Tilo Kehrer, as we know, is already back, and he's back training with the team. So it's quite likely we might see a little bit of him in the game against Fulham. And of course, like I've said, Alphonse Areola and Naifer Gerd, well, they're still out there, and we won't be seeing them until the World Cup is over. It's been a good World Cup. I mean, despite all the stuff that's been going on off the field, and let's be honest, it is important. All the stuff that's been happening, it's gotten better. The World Cup, it's really become quite a really good competition. Some fantastic games. Commiserations to Brazil, commiserations to England. I feared France. I really did, and we just faltered at the last. I mean, of all the players to miss a penalty. Anyway, so commiserations to them, but good luck. More good luck to Morocco. I'd love to see Naifer Gerd going into the World Cup final if he's fit enough. That would be absolutely superb. What a dream. What a dream. Anyway, let's go into the chat and say hello to everyone that's there. So let's scroll up all the way to the top. Good evening, Foxes. How are you? Sell the lot and start again. Oh, that's the title of my show. Are we really going to have a quick fire January sale? Let's talk about that later, shall we? Good evening to you, Andy. Hope you're well, mate. A bit chilly, mate. It's freezing out there. Couldn't believe it. Last night, the weather, the snow really settled, didn't it? And it was cold. Good night to be sat in with a pint and listen to the show. Cheers, fella. Good health to you. Good evening to you, Gary. I hope you're well. Come on, your irons. Good evening, Lee. How are you? I'm very well, and I hope you are too. Graham, how are you, mate? How will Britain survive with all that snow? Well, everything's already come to a standstill, mate. Believe it. Believe it. Minus 18 here with the wind chill, so I'm hoping that your insight warm us up. I'm not so sure about that, mate. Minus 18. And well, I'm complaining that it's what was it? -4, -5 or something like that. Good evening to you, Martin. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you very much. Good evening, Sharky. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated, Sharky. Really appreciate that. Sarif, how are you? Galispera to you. I'm very well. Hope you are too. Coming out to Cyprus again in May. Another wedding. God, everyone's getting married out there. Good evening to you, Daniela. How are you? Thank you for joining. Neil, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. 7:35 in the morning. That's rather late for you, mate, isn't it? I hope you're well, and thank you for joining. Mr. Evans, how are you? Thank you for joining as well. David, thank you, Lee. My appreciated. I appreciate it. David, how are you, mate? For me, coming on a flight from Calgary, Alberta to Dallas, Texas, seems like the only time. Yeah, that's true. Were you just about to board a flight last time? I think you were, weren't you? God, you travel a lot, mate. And I hope you're well, and safe journey to you as well. Good evening, Howard. I hope you're well, mate. Thanks for joining, as usual. Good evening, Mr. Bong. You too. I hope you're well. Thank you, Lee. Much appreciated. I'm rubbish at doing it. So if you're new to the channel, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and that bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. Well, if you're already part of this channel, hit the like button. So thank you, Lee. Much appreciated. I don't know what it means by hi, Bong, but I'm sure that means something. Sorry, you were saying hi to James. I now understand. Good evening, Foxes. I hope you're well, mate. Patrick, how are you? Drop in and say hello. Can't stay long. Stay as long as you can, Patrick. Much appreciated, and thank you. Tony, Deck has 10 days. Thank you for that. So that means that started from Saturday, which means he'll be back just after next weekend then. Thank you for updating me on that. Much appreciated. Good evening to you, Dave. How are you? Thank you for joining, mate. Much appreciated. Schmiegel, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining as well. Everyone's saying hello to each other, which is nice to see. So I'll skip all that. David, would love to see Morocco go further. You know what? I would. What a dream. I mean, it's the first African nation to have made the semi-finals in the World Cup. So a fantastic achievement already. Imagine if they kept France at bay and they got to the final. I think it'd be fantastic. And if there's any way of playing defensive football, did you see the comments that David Moyes made about Morocco and their style of play? He was sort of critical of them, and everyone was going, hang on, mate, it's what you do. But that's the way to play it. God, they were effective and not boring either. You know, because when they got the opportunity to go forward, they tried to take it with aplomb, didn't they? They weren't just sitting behind the ball and just hoping for the best. When they got that ball, they were going for it. Oh, great, fantastic. What's the name of the Morocco manager? Walidin, I say. Vino, how are you, mate? Back to West Ham now. Zuma is out, Agerd is out, and Moyes out. Well, 2 out of 3 you got right there, Vino. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Daniela, is going out of the World Cup any different than going off Europe or the FA Cup? It's a national thing, isn't it? Rather than a domestic thing. You know, if we go out of the FA Cup or if we go out of a European competition, it's just West Ham that suffer, or the team, whatever team goes out. Whereas this is like the whole of England suffers here, don't they? Howard, it's brass monkeys, absolutely. Sharky, Morocco have been I'm very, very impressed with their quality of football. Absolutely impressed. Black Country, good evening to you, mate. We were robbed on Saturday. Was the ref French? Well, you know what? The ref was odd. You can't deny it. But I cannot blame the ref for our defeat. As much as I like, but he was odd. He was strange decision maker, wasn't he? Lee, I love the underdog. Morocco, Saudi, who would have thought it? West Ham underdogs. That's why we're going to win the Europa Conference League. Schmiegel, Morocco have some decent players. Wonder if Moyes is still eyeing and Naziri. He is. I've actually kept away from doing any transfer talk tonight because I've got so much, an awful lot of other things to talk about. But I will do a show later in the week about all the transfer links. And then Naziri apparently has been waxing lyrical. You know, David Moyes, you may not know. David Moyes writes for the Times newspaper, and he's been doing his praise of the World Cup and when he gave Morocco, sort of talking about their style of football. Anyway, and then he's been waxing lyrical about En-Nesyri. Why didn't we get him when we could have done? But yes, apparently he is interested in En-Nesyri. Let's see what happens. Not this January transfer window, maybe in the summertime. So was happy Brazil and Portugal. I wasn't happy about Brazil. I like Brazil. I thought they played some really nice football. I was, with the greatest of respect to Portugal, and if there are any Portuguese viewers on tonight, I do my apologies, but I'm quite glad Portugal went out, to be quite honest with you. I think it started off with Ronaldo cheating was it in the first game when he dived for a pen and he got a penalty? It just got worse from there, I think. Neil, amazing. The only goal Morocco conceded is an Agerd goal. It is madness, isn't it? David, Agerd, any updates on how long? Yeah, I'll come to all that in a minute, mate. Please bear with me, and I'll get to all of that. Patrick, being Moroccan myself, I was expecting a win. Are you Moroccan, Patrick? I didn't know that. Well, congratulations to you. Vinay, 180 million pence an underdog, more like dog with a goal. Do you know what? I mean, I know people are still going on about Moyes, etc., etc. I've really tried to deliberately avoid having the Moyes out debate. So there's lots of channels that do it, and good luck to them. But I just think there's other things to talk about, and I know who the manager is at the club is important, and people want Moyes in, people want Moyes out, etc. But I kind of I'm not bored with that conversation, and please don't, and I don't mean that disrespectful to you, Vinay, but I've just got a little bit, a little bit frayed at the edges about the Moyes debate. And I just wanted to do, I've got other shows lined up. I've got 3 other shows lined up. Not one of them are talking about the manager, because there are loads of other things to discuss. Anyway, Sharky, I'd love to have seen a Brazil-Argentina semi-final. Croatia played well. Yeah, I don't know. Croatia did play well. Good on them. They did. Black Country, 3 more games. Moyes gone still. I don't know, is the honest truth. But what if he does 3 really good games? What then? Are we all back to Moyes in again? I don't know. Schmeigel, Stella, I read some interesting article earlier about how the World Cup could be fixed for a France-Argentina final as Messi and Mbappe play for PSG, who are, fuck me. You know what? That never crossed my mind. Do you know, seriously, that's a really interesting point. Could it be done? Could be. Who's to say why not? That really is. That's a good point. Yeah, good point. Is there any mileage in there, any truth in that? I don't know, but I've never thought of that. Daniela, I'm not sure about some of our forward players. We are as good as everyone think or say we're. Start again. I'm not sure some of our forward players were as good as everyone thinks or say when AWOL in some games. Our forward players, excuse me 1 second. If you're talking about our forward players in England, the England team, I think they did actually exceptionally well. To be quite honest with you, I think I was really surprised though in the game, in the last game, that Moyes didn't Southgate didn't bring on some of the wide players a lot earlier, and he brought Mason Mount on, which kind of confused me a little bit. I'm sure there's a good reason for that, I must have missed it. But I would have rather seen Grealish on earlier or someone like that to really run at them. Mount isn't the sort of player, mind you, he got the penalty, didn't he? Fox says, don't worry, Masuaku's coming home. He certainly ain't. And before I go on to the next part of the show, if Morocco win the World Cup, could you hook in the hype and sell West Ham boys claret and blue faces? Great idea. Right, let's go on with the first part of the show, shall we? And the first part of the show is all about the matches we played, because we've had quite a few, haven't we? So we got back into action last week. Okay, they're only friendlies, but we need it. We haven't played football for a few weeks, and it's important to have had some game time. And of course, the first game last week was the game against Cambridge, the testimonial for Greg Taylor, who's a West Ham fan who plays for Cambridge United. Look, the result didn't matter. A 4-2 win. Randolph didn't really try too hard for the penalty that was actually taken by Taylor himself to make it 4-2. I looked at it as an overall thing rather than rather than the game in total. And what I got from that was that our defense looked shaky. Our attacking play looked like it was misfiring. But I think the really good thing is our midfield seemed to be really good and really effective. And we had, the defence, first of all, we're going to have to rely on Craig Dawson and Angelo Ogbonna for a while, whilst the likes of Zuma, etc., are out, recovering from their injuries and so on. But they just didn't look organised, and they just really didn't look really jointed up. And you can't read too much into it. It's the first game back, after being not playing for a few weeks. But it's just like, I just hope, and I'm going to go on to the game against Udinese in a minute. I just hope that we were going to get a better outcome in our defence, and that left me sort of worried a little bit. Then our strikers, as I've just mentioned, didn't fare much better. Antonio looking industrious, not much end result really though, and Skamaka's shooting was somewhat wayward as well. And I would, again, coming to the Udinese game, I was really hoping that I was going to see a little bit better. Having said that, we scored 4 goals in this game. We scored 3 goals in the Udinese game. So 7 goals in 2 games. Given that we've been goal shy this season, I think it's pretty good. It bodes well. But a lot of that has come from our midfield. A lot of that, a lot of the interaction, a lot of the good play has come from our midfielders. I think that the biggest problem in the Cambridge game, of course, was Aaron Cresswell walking off after 15 minutes with an apparent hamstring injury. And I'm going to come to that as well in a minute when I talk about player news and all the injury updates that we've got at the moment. And I think that was the low light. Not a good defensive performance, not a good attacking performance from our strikers. But in terms of midfield, I thought we did exceptionally well. And the low light being Aaron Cresswell going off. And then, of course, at the weekend, we went over to Italy to play Udinese. Now, Udinese, 8th in the league in Serie A, there's just a few points away from a European place. So, it was going to be a proper test. It wasn't going to be something that would be a walk in the park. And I thought, again, our midfield looked superb. I think our midfield is really coming together. We had a superb goal from Lanzini, a wonderful strike from Lanzini. I think Fornals, I think Bowen is looking sharp again. Ben Rama is picked up from where he left off before the World Cup break. I think our midfield has all of a sudden, for some reason, and I don't mind, is they've really come good and really come together. Again, our defence, though, unfortunately, I think let us down a little bit. That goal that they scored, Udinese, was a mix-up, complete mix-up with our defence. It looked like three players were going for the same ball, leaving the player out wide on his own to slot the ball home. And it was that concerned me again. But I think what I liked is when Emerson came off later in the game and Moyes decided to put Ben Johnson. Now, Ben Johnson, a right back, and the best games that he's had has been as a left back, and he put Ben Johnson there, and all of a sudden we looked a little bit more solid there. Ironic, it's irony, isn't it? Is Johnson a right back, or is he a utility player? I don't know, but I think he looked a little bit more solid at left back. And if Cresswell's going to be out for a while, then maybe Ben Johnson might be the player that might secure that spot for the foreseeable future. I don't know. I think Soufal had a pretty decent game on the right side. He wasn't too bad. But our central defenders, Ogbonna, I love Ogbonna, but you could just see his time's come and gone, I'm afraid. And Dawson, is his head there? So much talk about Craig Dawson apparently leaving West Ham. He wants to go to back up north, etc. And I just wonder again, is Dawson really sort of with it? Is his mind in the right place? Because I think they're good defenders, Dawson and Ogbonna, but they just didn't look very solid for me. And then we've got Moyes, Scamacca and Antonio up front. We've all been crying out for it. Does it work? As I've said before, no, it doesn't work. They're completely different players, completely different mindsets in the way they play their football. We love Antonio for his effort, his endeavour, going forward, smashing defenders out of the way, booting the ball 20 yards and running at it, etc. That doesn't work for Scamacca. Scamacca needs clever players around. And I'm not disrespecting Antonio, but Antonio isn't on that same wavelength as Scamacca. When Scamacca has the likes of, say, I don't know, Paqueta, Fornals, Bowen, even Cornet, who I'm going to talk about in a minute as well. When he's got those sort of slightly smarter players around him, I think he gets into the game more. It was great that Moyes tried it, but for me, it just doesn't work. It simply doesn't work. And again, our strikers seem to be just not quite with it. But our midfield, I think, have been superb. Soucek came back. He played not reasonably well. He played very well. Fornals being in the centre of the park rather than out left, I think is a much better player. Bowen is looking sharper. So I think there's some really good positives to take from that. We scored 3 goals. That was fantastic. And I think that really bodes well. We'll see what's going to happen. I'm going to go to the game on Saturday against Fulham. And I know it's only a friendly, but again, it's a matter of how we approach that game. The result doesn't matter. In fact, the result didn't matter in the last 2 games. It was more about the endeavour, the effort, and what we would do. Now, Moyes obviously is going to stick to a 4-2-3-1. He ain't going to move away from that. Fine. By all means, stick to a 4-2-3-1. But when Paqueta comes back, I want to see Paqueta alongside Declan Rice and maybe Soucek a little bit further forward to offer him that attacking impetus like he's had in the past. Tilo Kehrer is back, as I said, so he might play some part in the game against Fulham at the weekend. So we've got some things to look forward to, but it's the defence that I'm really worried about. If our midfielders continue to score goals, let's say I'm not worrying about our strikers at the moment, but I want them to get a few goals themselves. Right. We've had other games. We've had the under-18s. Now, I'm cheating here because this happened over a week ago, but who cares? It was a game against Spurs and we beat them, so I've got to mention it. So just over a week ago, the under-18s were up to their winning tactics, antics yet again. They had to come from 2 goals down to stun Spurs into a 4-3 win. It was quite an astonishing game. The visitors ran into an early 2-goal lead before Lewis Orford halved the deficit from close range. Tottenham's 2 goals was restored after half-time. Spurs striker Will Lancashire, looks good, secured an impressive hat-trick on the 51st minute. But Ollie Scarles came up, scored from a superb strike, which gave the Hammers hope. And then my man, Divine Mbama, scored a brace in the dying minutes of the game to make it 4-3. Absolutely superb. Kevin Keane has got this team flying. We've now 15 points clear. 15 points clear in the Premier League under-18s and having won our opening 10 matches. They simply just don't know when they're beaten. And then going on from a Spurs defeat, we had another one at the weekend, didn't we? I'm smiling. I know. I'm a bit, childish, aren't I? On Sunday, it was the women's turn to to beat Spurs. And the outcome, much the same. 2-0 win to the women's team, returning to their winning ways in the Barclays Women's Super League. It was the last game of the calendar year for them, and it was a frustrating first half display by the women's team. We missed a penalty. Dan, I still can't pronounce. I've been trying to do it. Brynjarsdottir. Dagny, the captain of West Ham United. She dragged the penalty wide in the first half, but in the second half she scored a goal, and then Hawa Sissoko secured the victory for the Hammers, and we've climbed to 5th in the women's league, which is fantastic. Paul Konchesky's certainly got the team playing well, and well done to him. Fantastic news. Right, let's go into your chat, because the next part is going to be all about our players, talk about player sales, player injuries, all that sort of stuff. So, but before I do that, let's see what you guys have to say. Black Country. I can't see 3 more positive results with Moistel. Look at the stats. Last 12 months doesn't lie. I know, mate. You never know. This is the beauty about football, isn't it? The beauty about football is, you just don't really know when you think your luck's down even more. I think this break has done us well. I'm fingers crossed. I hope this break has done us well, and we come back completely different team. May not. It may be much the same. And there's this talk about Moyes has got 3 more games before, and he's got to get results out of them, and he might go. It's quite possible. It's quite possible if Moyes doesn't win or get any positive results in the next 3 games, he could be gone. If that's what happens, that's what happens. I think a lot of people misunderstand me. That they say I'm like Moyes. No, you don't. You're stupid and you don't understand. And how could you not? How could you always keep backing Moyes, etc., etc.? It's not so much I'm backing Moyes; it's I'm backing the team. And Moyes happens to be part of the team at the moment. If Moyes goes, because of continued bad results, then we'll cheer the next manager that comes in. But I don't know. I think maybe the break might have come at a good time for us. But let's see what happens. Let's scroll down. Vinay. Black Country with Moyes. It's the Emperor has no clothes. A well-run top club would have shot at Moyes months ago. Well, why? Because he's, and I know you know what I'm going to say. The last two seasons have been superb. So what are we talking about this season and the tail end of last season? I get that, but let's see what happens. There's still an awful long way to go between now and the end of the season. What happens? Like I asked earlier on, what happens if we have a really good January and we start climbing up that table? What will people think then? Anyway, Black Country, it's true Masuaku's broken. No, it's not a broken leg. He's done his knee again. But I don't think it's broken. Is it true? He might play better. I'm the one that's meant to do the Masuaku jokes. Apparently, he's done his knee and he's out for a while. And apparently, Basiskas wants to now give him back to us. I talked about this about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where he damaged. I thought all was going well with Masuaku over in Turkey. It was starting regularly. They were winning games, keeping clean sheets, etc., etc. And I was suggesting that he's found his place in football. But not so. Apparently, the minute he's got injured, they want shot of him. They want him. They want to send him back, and we've said no. We don't have a place for him in the team. So he's out injured. I don't know how long for though, because it's all gone a bit quiet with regards to Masuaku's injury. But it's not a broken leg. It's not from my understanding. Let's scroll down a bit more. Daniela. The under 18s and girls betting the Spuds beating the Spuds is always good news. Whoever beats the Spuds is always good. That's why I cheated and talked about the under 18s game as well. Graham, our defence and strikers were poor against Cambridge, but the team as a whole had a wonderful sundance. Patrick, Daniela, I'm moving back to Essex soon and intend to watch the girls' team when the lads are not playing. Why not support them? Why not? They're still a West Ham team. Kalispera to you, Keith. I hope you're well, mate. Don't worry, you're not too late. I've only done half an hour, and you know me, I've talked half an hour of drivel, so you ain't missed much. David, Bowen played well in the Udinese game. Hope that transition to the league. He looked really sharp. And I'm really pleased, because I was sort of suggesting that maybe Bowen is one of those players that needs to be dropped and maybe learn that lesson from the benches and etc. But you're absolutely right. I was impressed, not just the Udinese game. He looked really sharp in the Cambridge game as well. Let's scroll down. Patrick, I might try and get over there next year. Let's all go and support the women's team. Foxes of Bonner looks done. Unfortunately, he does. Unfortunately, he's never had a lot of pace, but I think that injury has really taken it out of him. We'll probably keep on. I'm going to talk about, who we're all apparently going to sell half a dozen players in January, and Bonner's apparently one of them. Let's scroll down a bit more. Black Country, Mancini for me with his owners, no way local scrap dealer, maybe. No disrespect to local scrap dealers. Mancini, probably not. I don't know. I mean, Mancini hasn't resigned from the Italian team for not bringing Italy to the World Cup. It'll be Sean Dyche if he goes. I'm telling you now. Sean Dyche. I might be wrong, but I'm not. Let's scroll down. John, good evening to you. Patrick, Daniela, I think you're both on the wrong site. What about women's football? Oh, okay, I get you, because they let them have that chat between them. Let's scroll down a bit more. Who else we got? What does Sharky say? Bielsa, the next man. No, I don't get that. I genuinely don't. I don't think Bielsa knocked down any trees in the Premier League with Leeds. I'm not so sure I understand that, to be quite honest with you. Apparently, he's a very technically gifted manager, but I don't think he did that well with Leeds United. And maybe you'll say because he didn't have the resources. I don't know. Neil, because there's so many better managers out there. See, everyone's got an opinion about the managers, and everyone thinks that we're going to get Pochettino and Tuchel. Apparently, Pochettino's already turned us down. I don't know. I don't even know if he's even been approached, to be quite honest with you. I've seen so many stories that we've approached him, but Tuchel, same thing. I think probably, again, what I said about 3 or 4 weeks ago was the board have probably got a list of managers that they may have a preference for should it get worse. I don't think there's any that's good contingency planning. That won't just be West Ham United. That will be every club that if they're suffering, they will say to themselves, or they'll say amongst the board of directors, etc., if it gets worse, who are we thinking of? And I have absolutely no doubt they'll have a list of managers that they may want to approach. Tuchel, Pochettino, may be on that list, but so will others. Sean Dyche may also be on that list. Black Country, still, he might be on your dinner plate come Christmas. Masuaku plays turkey. Bad joke. It was a bad joke. James, yes, Patrick. Sissoko saw a red for Declan. Oh, yeah, Sissoko saw a red for Declan. She did cut some. Was it Sissoko or Asai? I don't know now. Was it Sissoko who saw a red? Could be. Roberto Martinez. No, I don't think he's that good either, to be quite honest with you. Southgate. Interesting. If he leaves England, you never know. Right, let's go into that final part of the show, shall we? And it's all about players. Right. I did a show the other day and talked about injuries and so on. And I said in that show, when I hear the club talking about a player and saying it's just a slight knock, or saying that he's been taken off for precautionary measures, that makes the alarm bells ring. Because now we know that Aaron Creswell's got a hamstring injury. And like all injuries, they're normally graded between 1 and 3, 1 being a minor injury, 3 being the most severe, etc. And from what we understand, it's a possibly a grade 1 injury, which means he's pulled it, a slight strain. He felt it during the game against Cambridge, taken off as a precaution, and he should be okay. But if it is just a strain for a hamstring injury, you're still looking at 3 or 4 weeks. If it's anything less than that, then he'll be back for the game against Fulham at the weekend in order to continue to get match fit, in order to prepare for the game against Arsenal the following week. If we don't see him on Saturday, then you can bet your bottom dollar that he won't make the Arsenal game either. We've been told it's a hamstring. It's a grade 1 injury. A grade 1 injury. When I look it up, I'm no doctor. But a grade 1 injury apparently is 3 or 4 weeks out. Let's hope it's more minor than that, and we do see him. But if it's any worse, if it's a grade 2 injury, it could be a partial tear. He could be out. He could be out until the sort of the end of January. Missing quite a few vital games. If it's a full tear, which I probably don't think it is, a grade 3, then he could be out for several, much longer. But we're told it's a grade 1. Normally, a grade 1. Few weeks, 3 weeks maybe, which means that he will be missing the game against Arsenal on Boxing Day. Right, Kurt Zouma. Now, this was interesting. I did a show again last week, a very short show on Zouma, and talked about the different, we heard that he had knee surgery, but no one sort of told us what kind of surgery it was, and we had to kind of find out last week as to what sort of surgery it was. And I talked about the various surgeries and said, if he had a meniscus surgery, it could be out for 3 months. If it was an ACL, it could be out for, as Neil said, a player could be out for a year. But I said, there are other minor surgeries that you could have, and I was dismissive of them. I said, well, it probably couldn't be. It's probably a meniscus. And I wish I'd done my research on the other surgery, because apparently what he had was something called an arthroscopic knee surgery. I even found a photo. There you go. That's how much I've been doing my due diligence. An arthroscopic knee washout is a procedure used to diagnose and treat certain problems in the knee joint. So we know that they diagnose that. So the procedure involves a small insertion where a camera goes in. That's that camera on the left of my screen. And then once they find the issue, they'd use an arthroscopic instrument in order to flush out the problem and hope that will repair it. Now, that minor surgery itself can take anything up to 6 weeks to recover from. So he's already done it. He did it around the 24th of November. 6 weeks, in my reckoning, will take us back through to round about the first week, end of the first week of January, give or take. So he won't be back for the game against Arsenal. He could be back round about, I don't know, maybe the Wolves game on the 14th, or maybe the Everton game on the 21st. But I will be very surprised yet again if we see Kurt Zouma coming back for the Arsenal game. I'd love it. I'd love it if Creswell and Zouma were back, but I'm not holding up much hope for either of them. And who else? Well, this man. This was in training. This was a photo that we saw of the West Ham on the West Ham official website of Maxwell Cornet back in training. And we thought, here we go. He's back. Thank goodness. Been out injured since October against in the game against Wolves, and he'll be back in action. It's fantastic that he's back in training, etc. Just before the Cambridge game, he pulled out because he felt a tweak. What we're not being told is, what the hell's the tweak on? We do not know what the problem is. Is it a hamstring? Is it a muscle? Is it or what part of the body is it, or whatever? All that we heard was he felt a tweak, put him out. Put him out not only for the Cambridge game, he wasn't available for the Udinese game either. And people can't tell me whether he's going to be back training or taking any part in the Fulham game this weekend. We do not know what's going on. What is this tweak? I mean, he's been out since October, so he's been out nearly 2 months, and it's quite possible he won't be back himself, probably God knows when. I'm hoping If we see him in the game against Fulham, then we know he's going to be okay. If he's not taking part in the Fulham game, we'd be really nice to know what this tweak is and how much longer he might be out for. And it's a massive concern because, he's got pace and he could be an alternative to what we need up front. And I think he's a miss. But I kind of, we did know that he had injury issues when he was at Burnley, but not being able to understand what the problem is leaves fans a little bit frustrated. Should we know? I don't know. Why not? Why, we at least we will get an idea of how much longer he'll be out for. We heard Kurt Zouma had knee surgery. We know that Agerd has got a thigh problem. We know now Creswell has got a groin injury, etc. So, a hamstring injury, a minor hamstring injury. So why are they keeping so hush-hush about Cornet's problem? It seems a little bit odd. And moving on to Naif Agerd, well, we were biting our nails, weren't we, the other day, thinking that if Morocco were going to play the player in the quarterfinals against Portugal, that might be him out of the West Ham team for a good number of months because he would have only have aggravated the thigh injury that he got. Thankfully, he didn't play. Like I said earlier in the show, it doesn't look like he'll be taking any part in the game in the semi-final against France. Apparently, this is a grade 1 thigh strain, which again takes a few weeks to recover from. He might just be back in time if Morocco make it to the final. He might just be back for that. But I hope they don't patch him up because we saw what happened to Romain Saiz, who was patched up, and he's definitely out of the rest of the tournament. So I hope they don't do the same with Agerd, but I know they're going to need him. They're going to need their best defenders on the pitch against France if they stand any chance of going through. But having said that, all their subs that have come on have been absolutely fantastic, haven't they? But it looks like Agerd will be out for a while longer, but it's quite possible that he might be ready, maybe on the subs bench against Arsenal. But if not, we're looking at another player that won't be back in the West Ham team until early January. Right, before I carry on, let's go into some of your comments and I'll carry on with the rest of the player news in a moment. So let's scroll down. Who have we got? Black Country. Still, I've done that one. Let's scroll down a bit more. Patrick, we can't keep changing the manager. Stick with Moyes, and when this lot gel, it will get better. That's my thinking, to be quite honest with you, Patrick. I don't think we're that sort. We're not that. We've never been traditionally that sort of team, changing manager time and time and time again. We're definitely not that way inclined. And I think the board have demonstrated that. They've demonstrated that they'll stick with the manager until it gets to a point. And I think I said it again in another show that they've only ever gotten rid of two managers mid-season. Pellegrini and Bilic. All the other managers have stayed. Well, much to our, one time we got relegated for it with Avram, but otherwise they've stuck with the manager throughout the whole season. My gut tells me that they're going to stick with the manager, and I don't think they feel that we're going to get relegated. We're in a precarious position, I must admit, though. But I agree with you. Si, good evening to you. Definitely not Southgate. More of the same, I guess. Lee, don't know for the life of me why we would get a Spurs manager. Hate the Spurs and all that is known to the club. Yeah, I don't think it's people's wish, isn't it? Pellegrini, not Pellegrini. Pochettino, thing is a great manager. Oh, he'll be fantastic for us, etc., etc. Patrick, thank you for joining, mate. Really much appreciated, and I'm sure I'll see you again very soon. Good evening to you, Billionaire Sports Predictions TV. Thank you for joining. Argentina cannot afford to lose against Croatia. Check my channel for more football predictions. Yeah, go and check out his channel. And when you do, Billionaire Sports Predictions, please promote my channel as well. Much appreciated. Daniela, if we go for Deitch, all the big name managers will walk away from us. Just saying. Peter, Stel, do you seriously think that anything will change after this break? I don't know, Peter, is the honest truth. I can just see us continue to struggle with Moyes not changing the way he plays. The players look like they don't care about Taggart. Look, I do think that he will. I do think that he will stick to the 4-2-3-1. I've seen that in the games that we played against Cambridge and against Udinese. But it's the players that he puts in those positions. If he's smart enough to what we all saw in the World Cup, he will put in the 2 he will put Declan alongside Paqueta, and have them as a two. Move Souček, if you want to keep Souček in the team, move him further forward to be part of the 4-2-3-1. That might work. So I hope that if he sees what we've seen, that will be a change. I think it's about the personnel. He's clearly not going to change the formation, but it's about the personnel that he uses. If he sticks with the same personnel in the same positions, then I agree with you. Nothing will change, and we'll probably suffer more of the same. But having said that, we have had some players that have not been on top form. Bowen, but he's looked good. Souček. Even Souček looked quite decent in the game against Udinese. Maybe now the players are going to pick up their pace a little bit. And even if he does stick with the same tactics and the same formation, we might see certain players improving their game. But I could be wrong. Black Country. Oh my God, those big straws in his knee. I know I was actually quite proud of the fact that I found anything to put up there. I quite like that. I'm going to go back to it. It's a brilliant photo. 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is. Look at the size of those. Can you imagine? Cornet, Paul. Cornet is wafer thin, waste of space. Oh, dear. I don't know. When he's fit, I think he looked really decent when he played the few games he played. Mandy, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Oggy is on his way out, unfortunately. Zuma has permanent knee problems. Well, let's hope this knee flushing out has done the trick, and Aguerd keeps getting injured. Well, yeah, but Aguerd doesn't have a history of injuries, I guess. Will we bring in another central defender in the January window? Well, wait till the end of the show, and I'll talk to you about a particular one that's apparently coming in. Peter, Cornet never played for us again, and will put up for sale in January. I don't think he'll be part of a sell in January, especially if he is continued to be injured. No one to buy him. Good evening to you, Neil. I hope you're well. Sharky, we could do with Cornet back playing. We absolutely should. P. Gads, good evening to you. Should change his name to Maxenwell. Maxenwell. Is there a joke in there that I'm missing? Probably is. Howard. No Aguerd, no Creswell. Oggy shot. Zuma's crooked. When have we got... Listen, 2 weeks' time. What are you worried about? Come on. Nothing wrong with that. Mandy, how can you be out for 2 months with a slight injury? I know. This is why it pisses me off that we don't know what the bloody injury is. Sai, might drop Rice back into it. Could happen. It could happen. If we get that desperate, it could actually happen. When I think about it, with 5 central defenders, Dawson doesn't look like he wants to be here. Zuma's injured. Aguerd's injured. Bonner's finished. And we got Kehrer. Maybe Kehrer alongside Dawson. Or I don't think that'll work. Let's scroll down. Arsenal, Daniela, also having big... They do, exactly. That's why we're going to spank them in 2 weeks' time. We're going to walk away from Arsenal in 2 weeks' time going, what's the problem? We've just spanked them. I know. Pigs can fly as well. Let's scroll down. Good evening, Jonathan. How are you, mate? Much appreciated for you joining. James, again, all he's done for 5 months is 2 brilliant tackles and 2 subsequent injuries. I'd still buy the fest. Good evening, Ian. How are you? Cornet was a sick note at Burnley. He's taking the piss while getting paid. We just don't know what the hell's wrong with him. This is what is so frustrating, I guess. If we had an inkling that what was wrong with him, we'd have a clue as to when he might be back. But anyway, Jonathan. The getting rid of Moyes is about the results, yes, but it's more the frustration of seeing what needs to happen from the stand by the manager repeats the same pattern of problems. I agree. I totally agree. And I'm hoping to see something different. I was encouraged by our midfield play I keep thinking it's pre-season, but it's not. In the 2 friendlies that we played, I want to see a little bit more. I want to see a lot more from our strikers, and I want to see a lot more coherence with our defence. But what was inspiring was seeing Bowen looked in good form, Ben Rama in good form, Fornals when he's played in the rightful position in good form, Lanzini, I know he's more a squad player these days, but he can still do the business. Even Souček looked good at the weekend as well. Martin, I don't think that Moyes will turn things around in the next 3 games, but I do think he'll be given more time. It's going to be interesting. From what I'm told, if he doesn't get points in the next 3 games, it could be curtains for him. But let's see. You know, there's a lot of speculation that goes around, isn't there? Neil, Agueda's been a solid rock in the Moroccan defence, Bong, and one of them. He absolutely has. He's been superb in this World Cup. Absolutely superb. An absolute warrior. And I think if we a fit Aguerd for West Ham United, it's going to make a massive difference for us. But I get it. You know, when he goes in for those tackles, you do start to shit yourself as to how long he might, if he's going to get up or not. Black Country. With Moyes, we're running to stand still. Just mind him. I know, I get it, mate. I do appreciate it. I mean, I do, as you know, I do always try and, I appreciate everybody's comments and everybody's thoughts. You know, no one's going. If we all agreed, it'd be boring, wouldn't it? But I just think some people see it in very different ways. I'm disappointed with the results. I won't deny it. Absolutely. Am I concerned? Absolutely. Again, but is Moyes the sort of manager that might turn it round? Ironically, yes. Ironically, he might be. David M. I noticed the live Sky games in January and February being covered by Sky 8 times compared to West Ham. Why? That I don't know, but you've just reminded me, because I want to talk a little bit about the games coming up, because we've got quite a few fixtures. So let's see. First of all, the Brentford game, the FA Cup. Is now being confirmed for the 7th of January, kickoff at 5:30. It's ironic, isn't it, that we have Brentford in the league on the 30th, and 8 days later they come to us in the league, and then 8 days later we go to them in the FA Cup. Tickets are on sale as from tomorrow. So if you're a season ticket holder and you have an away ticket, they start on 50 points. Fuck me. They start on 50 points as from tomorrow. They're on sale. We've got an allocation of 2,400 and something tickets, which is really, really good. Fantastic news. And the game's coming up. Leeds United. I mentioned the Brentford game we got. And then in January, we got Leeds United away. It's going to be a tough fixture. On the 4th of January, a late kickoff, 7:45 kickoff. I mentioned already the Brentford game. Then we got Wolves at away again on the Saturday, the 14th of January, 3 p.m. kickoff. And then the Everton game at home on the 21st of January. And I can't remember what time that is, but you can find it on the official website. And then the changes that have just been mentioned because of TV, etc. in February. We've got on the 4th of February, we're awaiting Newcastle at 5:30 p.m. kickoff. And then we're at home to Chelsea on the 11th of February with a 12:30 afternoon kickoff. I hate that. 12:30 kickoff. And then Sunday, the 19th of February, we've got Spurs in a 4 o'clock or 4:10 kickoff. And then Nottingham Forest, again, I've not put the time there. Nottingham Forest, 25th of February, all changed because of TV. Thank you, TV. So what was your question again? I noticed the live Sky games in January, February by Sky being covered by Sky 8 times compared to West Ham 2. Why? Don't know. Maybe they think we're not big enough to televise any more games. I don't know. What gets me is when they televise the games, they move them to a Sunday, and all that sort of stuff. That I think that's more frustrating than anything else. Peter would snap our hands off for a 17th place right now. Thank you, David. Much appreciated. Good to see you on here as well. Aidan, wafer thin. That's cool. James was only joking, but yeah, he's played well. About Aguerd. Graham. When Cornet is fit, I remember that 20. That's cruel. He's a really good. He's a fantastic. He really impressed me in the World Cup. We just want to see him impressing in a West Ham shirt. Obviously. Good evening to you, Mice. I hope you're well. With so many defenders out, might need to play 9 defenders and Antonio up top. Isn't that what we already do? And that's why everyone complains about Moyes. Sharky, what's happening with the Brazilian lad who is supposed to be signing for West Ham? Bear with me, Sharky. Bear with me, Keith. It would be absolutely the West Ham way to go and beat Arsenal, then lose the other 2 games. It would absolutely be the West Ham way. You're absolutely right. Hello, mate. Hello, Hammer's dad. Evening drawings of even drawings of operations make me scream. I know. Do you want to see it again? Let's carry on with the show. So we'll leave it there and talk a little bit about loan players. Because the championship's back. And Emmanuel Angelo got a whole 90 minutes in the Birmingham City game and the 0-0 draw against Blackpool at the weekend. 21-year-old has featured quite a number of times now, kept a clean sheet in this game. Although the Blues were unable to secure a fifth win away in the last 8, but they're doing pretty well in the league. As it stands, 7 wins from their 22 matches. They sit 14th in the championship, only 14th, but yet 5 points off playoff places. Imagine that. He's doing really well, Longelo. Very well. He's in the last year of his contract at West Ham United. We've got an option of extending it for another season. Future left back for us. He's got to be, hasn't he? You know, I mean, everybody waxed lyrical about him when he played in the Europa League in the group game last season. They thought he was the man of the match in that game. And then he had a few injuries. He went out injured and then back into the then under 23s. Went out on loan. Did absolutely the right thing to do with this young lad. Send him out on loan. He's 21 years of age now. Sending him out on loan for a full season in the Championship, a good competitive league, and he's really getting. The Birmingham fans love him, and I think they're hoping that they're going to get to have him permanently. But apparently, he's doing exceptionally well. And we can extend his contract for another year. We've got an option on it. So even though his contract looks like it's expiring at the end of the season, we have got the option to extend it and keep him. I think if the young lad continues in this manner, I think he's going to be offered a long-term contract at West Ham. Armstrong Okoflex, not featuring as often as Longelo for Birmingham, but Okoflex playing for Swansea. He had about 15 minutes in the game, 20-minute cameo in the game against championship chasing Norwich City. It was all right. You know, we couldn't help his team to overcome the defeat there. But he's getting some game time, but probably not as much as I think we all expected. I thought Okoflex, yet again, I always get it wrong, don't I? But I thought Okoflex was going to be the next big deal for West Ham. You know, we got him from Celtic. A number of clubs were after him. A number of clubs were after him in the January transfer window last season to get him on loan. And we kept hold of him. We said we wanted to keep him. And I think we kind of hoped, sending him out to a championship team, we kind of hoped that he would get the same amount of exposure as Longelo has done. But it's not just happened. He's getting game time, but not quite as often as Longelo. So it's about 50-50 with Okoflex, because if you can't make it into a championship team, then what chance do you have of making it into a Premier League team? I don't know. But again, the season's long, and who knows? He could improve on his time at Swansea. Dan Chester's another promising young talent, out on loan at Colchester United. He played the full 90 minutes, but unable to see his side avoid a narrow defeat to Sutton United. 10th loss in 11 games for them, so they're struggling a little bit. He's another player, you know, I think it's good that he's out on loan. I think it gives these players a bit of game time, etc. Gets them sort of, see the game in a different way, because we always say, a lot of people say, it's all very well playing for the under 23s, under 21s, under 18s, etc. But it's a very, very different thing when you're actually playing proper competitive football. So it's good that Chester's getting game time as well. So we'll see what happens with him at the end of this season. Right. January sales. This tickled me, to be quite honest with you. It made me laugh a little bit because, excuse me, all these stories coming out that we're about to sell 8 players in the January window because they're all going to have their contracts expiring at the end of the season. I'm like, what's going on here? So let's have a look at the 8 players first of all. These are all the players that are apparently at the end of their contracts in the summer. Lucas Fabianski, Craig Dawson, we all know about. Creswell, Soufal, Lanzini, Ogbonna, Colin Coventry, and Darren Randolph. Now, what's interesting about this is it's slightly wrong, because not all these players are coming to the end of their contracts. For example, Lucas Fabianski has got another 1-year option on his contract. Aaron Creswell has already had his contract extended till 2024. Soufal and Lanzini have got 2-year options on their contracts to extend them. Ogbonna and Coventry, okay, they're at the end of their contracts, and so is Darren Randolph. But so they're not all out of contract at the end of the season, to be quite okay. Technically, you could argue that they are, but they're not all going to go. It's a bit odd. So Creswell, as I said, he's had his contract already extended till 2024. It's not been made a big deal of, but he has had his contract extended. So he ain't going anywhere at the end of this season. Fabianski, he ain't going to go anywhere in January, let alone probably the end of the season, because as David Moyes sees him, he's still the first choice number one keeper. So it's quite possible we might see Fabianski extend his contract for one more final year. Darren Randolph and Ogbonna, yes, okay. Now, will either of them go in January? I think not. And the reason being is we've got a couple of young goalies out on loan at the moment, who may well come back and stake a claim to be the third choice goalkeeper in the senior team. They're not back from their loan spells until the end of the season. Until such time, Darren Randolph remains third choice keeper. So he ain't going to go in January. Ogbonna, as we know, quite possibly will go at the end of the season. But again, we need him as cover. Even though he's slow, etc., he's slowed down because of his injury and so on. He's still quite useful, certainly in the Europa Conference League and certainly as backup. So I can't see either of them going in January. And then Craig Dawson, look, we know it's no hidden secret. It's that if we get a replacement for Dawson in the January window, then it's quite possible, yes, he will go. But it'd be a swap, like for like. We're not going to get a lot of money for him, maybe 4 or 5 million, maybe. Probably not even that, to be quite honest with you. And then we might even get a loan player rather than a permanent signing to replace him. If that's possible, then yes, Dawson may go. Sufal, this Leverkusen interest has all gone quiet. And again, I can't really see. Moyes is going to look at the squad and go, I didn't build up the squad in the summer only to let half of them leave again in January and be left short for the rest of the season. So I don't think, like I said, he's got a 2-year extension on his contract, and I think we're going to probably keep him until the end of the season and see what happens then. Connor Coventry, quite possibly. I would say if there's anyone that might leave, Connor Coventry, he's a player that we have enough cover for in the team. I mentioned earlier, Paqueta alongside Declan, Souček alongside Declan, even Lanzini alongside Declan, Flynn Downs alongside Declan. There's a number of choices, so it's quite possible that Connor Coventry could be a player that might be going, and MK Dons are apparently really interested in him because he did exceptionally well for them when he was out on loan to them last season. Other players that are are at the end of their contracts, but not senior players, Harrison Ashby. We keep being told that a deal has been done with Newcastle, and we're going to get a little bit of money for him in January rather than seeing him leave for nothing at like Sonny Perkins did at the end of the season. Is it possible? Yeah, it is. But the irony here is, I think the thing I'm holding up hope for here is when Sonny Perkins left, he came to us from Leyton Orient. He'd only been at the club, say, 3 seasons, and he thought he was Billy Big Bollocks and decided to go elsewhere. Harrison Ashby has been with us since the age of 8. And I think maybe if I'm clutching at straws, this is a little bit different to the Sonny Perkins situation. Born in Waltham Forest. From what I understand, he's a West Ham fan. I could be wrong. I know he wasn't born in Waltham Forest. Sonny Perkins was born in Waltham Forest. He was born in Milton Keynes, Ashby. But from what I understand, he's a West Ham fan, etc., etc. And I think maybe if we can come to some agreement on his expected contract, then I think it's quite possible that we might retain him. But there's talk, apparently, that he's already, is more or less agreed and moved to Newcastle. It'll be a shame. I think he is the future. The irony is there's talk about either we can't match his contract expectations or he's not going to get enough game time. The irony is he will get game time if it stays at West Ham United, because it's quite likely if Sufal goes, whether it be, in January at the end of the season, it's quite possible that Ashby will be elevated to the first team on a regular basis. I guess we'll see. Next up, Nikola Vlasic. There's an awful lot of talk about Vlasic going to Torino permanently in January. Here's why I don't think that'll happen. First of all, apparently Torino have approached us on an agreement and trying to renege on it now. It was agreed that we would sell him if he played a certain number of games. There'll be an automatic buyout for £13 million. They now want to renegotiate that fee. No. If that's what you've agreed, that's what you've agreed. I don't think he'll go in January because we're subsidising his salary. And whilst he's on loan, we'll continue to subsidise his salary. The minute he goes permanently, Torino are not only going to have to pay a £13 million fee, they're going to have to pay his full wages as well. Now, let's not forget, we also owe CSKA Moscow money for this player. God knows when the sanctions will be lifted on Russian companies, but at one point in the future, we may end up having to pay what we still owe CSK Moscow for this player. So I don't think we're going to reduce the fee, the asking fee. And I don't think Torino are going to buy him in January, because that means not only do they have to fork out 13 million, they then have to pay his salary full rather than it being subsidized. So I think it will happen in the summertime, but not necessarily in January. So the most likely players to leave, most likely, are these three: Connor Coventry, Craig Dawson, and Harrison Ashby. If so, of the 8 or so players that were talked about, we're going to get rid of all our players. And not only are we going to get rid of all our players, we're going to use all that money for Moyes to buy other players. Well, if you look at some of the players, if you go back and look at some of the players that we've got here, we're not going to get an awful lot of money for some of them. Fabianski, couple of mil at most. Dawson, couple of mil at most. Creswell's not even in there. Maybe Soufal, 5 mil at most. Lanzini might be our most expensive sell if we were going to sell him, let's say 8-9 million. Darren Randolph, 1 million, etc. What are you looking at? You're looking at about getting 15 odd million for those players. It's not going to buy you a lot, is it? Given that, and also getting rid of so many players and then going out and getting a right back, a striker, I think is what's being touted at the moment, and that's it. So you want a right back and you want a striker. So you want to get rid of 7 or 8 players and go and buy 2. Doesn't make sense, does it? Yes, some players will go. And like I said, quite possibly, at the worst case scenario, if we lose any players in January, it might be these 3, quite possibly. Any more than that, I'd be very, very surprised. But again, you never know. Someone asked me earlier, what about the Brazilian lad that we're apparently buying? Well, I don't know. The story changes as every week goes by. Luzao, for those of you who don't know, here's a little bit of back history on this particular player. As we know, Rob Newman was out in Brazil a couple of months ago, I think in October time, creating a scouting network with a number of teams out there in Rio de Janeiro. While he was out there, he was negotiating with Sao Paulo for this central defender, Luzao. Apparently the deal's done. Look, he's a left-footed central defender, 6'1". He's really quite a bull. Really plays a really strong game. Can play at left back if needed. Apparently, Newman was negotiating a deal while he was out there, etc., etc. Now, if depending on what news column you read, social media column you read, all these things have come up in that time. Apparently, there was a delay because of imaging rights. Apparently, there's a delay because Sao Paulo wanted a fee. Apparently, there's a delay because the agent wants a big fee. Apparently, there's a delay because the player himself wants a big signing on fee. You name it. Everything that can go wrong in a deal looks like it might be going wrong if you believe everything you read. From what I understand, a pre-contract has been agreed, but it's not worth the paper it's written on until it's an actual contract. So he could actually go and sign for, I don't know, Arsenal tomorrow if he wanted to. So at this moment in time, there's a gentleman's agreement in place, but it's not binding. Apparently, Sao Paulo, as I said, they wanted a fee, but his contract ends at the end of January. He becomes a free agent at the end of January. What I understand is we've agreed to pay Sao Paulo a nominal fee in order for them to release him at the beginning of January rather than the end of it. And what I also understand is we've also added a 15% sell-on fee in order to overcome the fact that Sao Paulo wanted a fee in the first place. Now, what we're understanding is the delay is about the agents. Of course, there are always agents involved. And if we can overcome that, then it's a done deal. From what I understand, it's not too far away from it being completed. But as you can see, imaging rights, problems with sell-on fees, problems with his contract, problems with the fact that the club wanted a fee, problems with agents, problems with the player wanted to sign. It's never an easy process, is it, to get a player? Work permit. Now, I had to look into this because I didn't know. As you know, when we were in the EU, getting a work permit was actually quite difficult. You had to, for a foreign player, you had to be an international, having played a certain number of games in order to get a work permit. It's apparently changed. Apparently now we can arrange for a work permit and this young lad can come in and start playing football almost straight away, which is brilliant. Now, will he play in the senior team or is he likely to go into the development team? From what I understand, he should be going into the senior team. So he looks like probably a long-term replacement for the likes of, say, Ogbonna, who we know is on his last legs. We do need a replacement. So someone coming in like that, being alongside all the other players in the senior team, getting accustomed to it, would be good. But as we also know, David Moyes doesn't play young lads in the senior team straight away. Look what he's done this season. It's going to take time for them to, to acclimatise, etc., etc. What's it going to be like for a 20-year-old who's played in the Brazilian league to come and play Premier League football? I can't see it. Can you? Yes, maybe if he's in the senior squad, fantastic. Will he get any game time? Who knows? Right. Let's finish off with your comments, and then we'll bid you good night. Paul Harrington, perhaps poor old Arthur's performances were so bad that Persiskas needed a cover story, so to put it out that he was playing with Poor, I've missed Arthur, not for the football, but for the banter. Jonathan, when Kira runs forward and does not get back, we shit ourselves. Zuma makes a late tackle, we shit ourselves. A Gerd slide tackles, we shit ourselves. Crest tries to defend crosses. So true. Disabled team, good evening to you. Thank you for joining. I hope you're well. Good to see you here. Mandy, 2 of the 4 teams below us are Wolves and Everton. Both will most likely climb up the table unless Everton do not sack Frank. Both will most likely climb up the table unless Everton do not sack Frank. Do you think he's good for them? I don't know. I hope they go down, to be quite honest with you. Howard, 12 points in February, people. That's what we'll probably turn it on. I'm encouraged by the games coming up. Let's go through that. Let me go back to those slides for a moment. Where are they? Here we go. Now, here's me being the optimist. Let's not forget we've got Arsenal coming up, and then we've got Brentford. There's 6 points there straight away. Leeds United away. I think we'll grind out a draw from that. Brentford, we owe them one. We absolutely fucking owe them one. And I'm going to say we're going to get all right. We're not going to win. We're going to get another draw. Wolves away, we'll win that one, so that's 5 points. Everton at home, we're going to smash them. There you go, 8 points in January, I reckon, and then in February, Newcastle away, Chelsea at home, we'll beat them. Tottenham at home, Tottenham away, we'll fucking beat them. Nottingham Forest at home, we owe them one. So there you go. I think 3, 6, 9. I'm going for 10 points there and 8 points. 10 points there and 8 points in January. What could go wrong? Let's scroll down. Peter, Okoflex won't make it in Premier League. It's weird, isn't it? How you see certain players and you think they've got it. There's something about them, they got it. And then you hear other teams are after them and you think, absolutely, we're right. He's got it. And then he goes to a championship team and he's just not making it. So it's a bit weird. Mandy, I've blocked all the 100% negative people. I wish I could do that. If I did, I probably wouldn't have anyone watching. What else got? Good evening, Flamer. How are you? Is Moyes gone yet? Still here, mate. Let us know when he's gone because I can imagine the new year with him. I can't imagine the new year with him around. Good evening, Robert. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Disabled team. What was that? Still a port on. I don't know how many hits I've got, how many likes I've got. If you're new to the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you're an old member, please hit the like button, subscribe, and all that sort of crap. Thank you for reminding me. Disabled team. Even I know that you aren't releasing players in January. There you go. But we're going to get one of yours, aren't we? Isn't there a young Leeds youngster that is about to leave, and you're going to lose him? So it's a bit of a swap. You got Sonny Perkins. I can't remember the lad's name, but apparently we're after one of your youngsters, and apparently he is very, very good. So that will be interesting. Let's see what else we got. Peter, Moyes wants Phil Jones to replace Dor. He doesn't, but he does want that guy Michael Keane from Everton. Black Country, board with transfers. Nothing's going to happen. 1-2 loans. That's it. I agree. Absolutely agree. This is different because this has been talked about. The Luzau deal has been talked about for quite a long time. So I can actually see that happening. But in terms of other transfers, I totally agree with you. I think we'll probably get a couple of loan signings to cover 1 or 2 spots, and that might be it. And also, there's all this talk about there's no money in the kitty because we've spent all of it in the summer. I can quite believe that. And also, we've also on the financial fair play. Can you fucking imagine? Some teams spend money like it's going out of fashion. We spend a lot of money in one summer window, and all of a sudden we're on the financial fair play bloody list, and we're being watched apparently because of the money we spend. Isn't that fucking? I don't get it. Anyway, Roberts. Women got Wolves in the 4th round. You're absolutely. I forgot to mention it. Thank you for reminding me. They have. It's 28th or 29th of this month. Of January. Wolves have got West Ham have got Wolves in the 4th round. They absolutely have. Pat Holland fan. Good evening to you. I've got some old faces coming up tonight. Very nice. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Phil Jones, don't worry, it ain't gonna happen. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Phil Jones, West Ham, WHU, how are you, mate? Would love Dawson to stay, but if he wants or needs to move north, then respect him. I think he's lost something this season. I don't think he's been that good a player this season. Sometimes there are players that have been there one season too many. I think this might be the case for Craig Dawson, unfortunately. Lee, did you see Emerson's interview with Jack Meat today? There's a couple of West Ham player interviews. There are. I haven't seen any of them. I know that came out tonight, but I haven't seen it yet. Paul, Vlasic price gone up now? No, it's not gone anywhere. It's still 13 million. 15 million euros, 13 million pounds was the agreement. It's not gone up, not gone down. That's the price they're going to have to pay. Good evening to you, Trodge. How are you? Can we bring him on to take penalties? Which one? We talked about so many players. Oh, about Vlasic. Good penalty, yeah. Schmeigel. Wish Moyes would give Vlasic a try in his natural and best position, but he continues to play him out. But this is what's been frustrating, isn't it? I got it. I accepted it to a point last season where Moyes kept playing players out of position because he kept saying I needed, didn't have enough cover. He doesn't have that excuse this season. He has bought Cornet and Emerson to play out left. So I don't want to see Fornals out left. There is room. There would have been room for Vlasic to play central attacking midfield in the team this season. I want to see Fornals in there. Maybe even Souček in an advanced position. I don't want to see him being played out of position. Paqueta, as we've seen in the World Cup, plays better in a deeper role. I want to see Paqueta playing in a deeper. I want Moyes to utilise the players in the right way, not because he wants to put square pegs in round holes. Trodge, Luzau will play in Premier League 2 as a Lacey replacement. This is what I'm confused about, Trodge. And you may be absolutely right, to be honest with you. Luzau will come in and then he'll be playing in the development team rather than in the senior team. You're absolutely right. Sharky. Work permit would be a problem, possibly. Apparently not. Apparently now that we're out of the EU, they're easier to come by rather than before. I don't know how it works. I've no idea how it works. Black Country. Can't see 2 strikers, to be honest. Well, what? In January? No, I can't. Maybe a loan player. We might get a loan player. But then what then? He's got Scamacca. He's got Antonio. Another striker. How frustrating would that be if he's still only playing one up front? I said much earlier in the show, Antonio and Scamacca don't work. Maybe if he brings a lone striker in that's a more attuned with someone like Scamacca, we might see something different there. Who knows? Trodge, gentleman's agreement. What can go wrong? Exactly, Trodge. You're absolutely right. Nail on the head. Paul, waited ages for one, and now we don't use him. And I'm worried about Scamacca. People have already started talking about him being a layer number 2. That ain't the player's fault. If there's a criticism of Moyes, and I do criticize him sometimes, it's when he doesn't use the player to his strengths. And people are already comparing Scamacca to Allaire and saying he's not right. It's that use him in the right way, is all I say. Neil, what striker is going to come to us? We have the kiss of death on the. This is exactly it, and that's the reason why. Sai, Luzau, other teams are interested in him and will struggle to get a permit. See, my understanding is, I've been told, do correct me because I really don't know enough about this sort of thing, but do correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is now that we're out of the EU, you don't have to jump through as many hoops to get a work permit. He's got a job over here. He's been offered a job over here. And apparently he doesn't have to do as much international duty as other players to have gotten a work permit. I don't know how it works. Trudge, go and get Milenkovic, please. His agent seems keen on us. It's really interesting because my understanding, if you remember the story last summer, Trudge, when it was a choice between Milenkovic, Zuma, not last summer, summer before, Milenkovic, Zuma, and like apparently we kept like, the deal's done for Milenkovic. No, it's not. The deal's done for Zuma. And apparently what was scuppering it, but you never know what the truth is, do you, behind the scenes? What was scuppering it was Milenkovic's agent. And apparently it wasn't just one agent, he had several. And that's why apparently West Ham walked away and ended up going for Zuma. Half the price, Milenkovic, younger, fitter, and I'd love to get him in. And if there's any remote chance that we have any, because he's now, not only did he, at the time, Milenkovic had 1 season left on his deal at Fiorentina. They've now extended his contract till 2027. So what he was going to be worth something like 15 million when we were looking at him a year and a half ago. Now that he's extended his contract till 2027, he's going to be worth much more. He'd probably be a 20 odd million pound central defender. We kind of missed our chance there for some reason. Ian, Moisey plays everyone out of position and get except goalkeeper. Never say never. James, if Kara plays next game, don't mention I mentioned the VR. James Fitzgerald, good evening to you, or good morning to you, or afternoon from Los Angeles. I hope it's nice and sunny over there because it fucking ain't here, mate. Thank you for joining, James. Black Country, agree, Paul. I know how you feel, mate. Alain Moyes was useless with 2 strikers. Where would that end up? Under 23s? Thank you, Howard. Much appreciated. Black Country, what have you been drinking, Stel? I'll have some of that, mate. Remember that song? I'm drinking Hazy Jane. Let me have a sip because I'm a bit parched. Hazy Jane, what is it? What that? Whatever it is. Those designer fucking beers. It's nice though. It's very nice. Is that him? Cody Drama. He's in your under 21s. Is that correct? And he's coming up for. He's refusing to sign a contract. And apparently he's better than Sonny Perkins. Wouldn't that be a shame? Disabled team. Robert, maybe Ashby's agent has put the feelers out to see where what his player contract could attract, what contract he could attract. Then going to West Ham, this is what we want. Quite possibly, because apparently, look, I've got 3 scripts on the go at the moment, 3 different shows, and one of them is all about our development team, our academy and development team, and what is going on with it. You know, because it's all a little bit odd at the moment because. Players are walking away, young players. And why is that? Is it because they're not getting the game time? They're not getting the opportunities? There's probably a lot of that to it. But also, are these agents are much smarter these days. These young players are a massive commodity to them. So if they can get them a great contract, they're not going to give too much of a shit, you know, where that player ends up. In Ngakia, you know, same thing. We had, all right, Reece Oxford went for other reasons, but Ngakia is a prime example of a player who wouldn't sign a contract with West Ham, even though we were shoving it in his face, and he said he wanted to go elsewhere. Agent talk. You know, he ended up at bloody Watford. Has he had a better career? You know, and Sonny Perkins most recently. Sometimes you've got to ask yourself, what's the reason for these players leaving? Is it only because they're not getting game time? Because before Moyes, you know, we were having the same issues with our young players. So I think you're right, Robert. I think agents, you know, these are commodities to them, these young players. If an agent can get a young player a decent contract that the agent's going to get a nice little cut out of, he's going to do it, isn't he? So, yes, you're absolutely right. And I just wonder if Ashby's head's been turned. I hope not. I hope Ashby, being at West Ham United since the age of 8 years old, might see that he's got a great opportunity, and he's just on the cusp. Let's also not forget, Ashby, every time he's had an opportunity to fully break into the West Ham team, the senior team, he's gotten injured. It's happened 2 or 3 times now. You know, Moyes talked about Ashby this season, earlier in the season, saying, when we were going to one of the away games, the Europa Conference League away game, saying, if this young lad wasn't injured, he'd be part of the squad. So I think it might be an awful lot to do with agents getting involved and turning the heads of these young players. What are we up to? I'm not far away. Martin, Chelsea are very beatable, but ref decisions usually go their way. Now it'd be at our place, so we'll beat them. Trudge. Leeds lineup deal to sign top teenager who impressed Joe Cole in West Ham training. Who's that about? Leeds lineup deal to sign top teenager who impressed Joe Cole in West Ham training. What, Ashby? Or was that all about Sonny Perkins? Who are you talking about, Trudge? Oh, the wrong one. Paul, fair play rules, don't understand it. Greedy six using what? This is what I don't understand fair play rules. It's odd. It's ironic, isn't it? We go out and spend money. All of a sudden, we're on the bloody fair play list and being watched. Other teams go out and spend fortunes, fast fortunes, and it's like, oh well, what? Sorry, what? I didn't see anyone spending money. Jonathan, what happened to that feeder club we signed with a few years ago? It was meant to be a Barca B type thing. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. So you're going to have to tell me a bit more about that. I didn't think we had a feeder club. But that's why Rob Newman went out to Brazil. He's done a deal with 4 teams in Rio de Janeiro. I can't remember them, but 4 teams, and looking at some sort of scouting network where the best players might come to West Ham United. Howard, by the time we have to give the Vlasic money to CSK, we'll be playing in Ewens. What's Ewens? I don't know. Explain. Mice Collective. Work permit, no problem. The boats that... Mice, for goodness sake. T-shirt was spotted on my wrist. It's a shame, but Batista disappeared off the face of the earth as he was supposed to be the real deal. Well, I've heard an interesting story about Batista. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say it, but let's just say, if you remember what happened to Reece Oxford, who got in with a bad... There was Oxford, there was another player, God, I can't remember his name, who came to us from Man United. God, someone's going to tell me their name. You know, sometimes young players get into bad crowds and, their heads are turned for different reasons. They want to have more fun than they want to do. They get a bit, they want to have more fun than they want to do concentrating on their football. And this is my understanding of Baptiste. I hope I'm not, it's only a rumor, so don't hold me to that. But apparently that's why he has fallen off the face of it, because he's not even playing. He's not even playing for the under-21s at the moment, and he's barely playing for the under-18s either. He has fallen off the face of the earth. Absolutely. Lee, Scamacca is happy where he is. Okay, he may not look it, but I read something somewhere. You know what? He's going to Juventus. No, he fucking ain't. I mean, how much more bollocks do you want to read that's out there? He's only been with us for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden, Juventus are interested, and apparently Paqueta. Is it Paqueta interested in? Is it Juventus interested in Paqueta, or is it Scamacca? Either way, both those players, apparently there's interest elsewhere. Oh, maybe it's Napoli or someone for Scamacca and Juventus for Paqueta. It's bollocks. They've only been with us 5 minutes. They're not about to leave straight away. Chris, good evening to you. That's correct still. That's why you're seeing Brighton sign players from... There you are. There you go. I thought I was right. Thank you. Hey, I've got something right. And I'm looking forward to the Brazilian network. I think it's going to be good for us. I think it could be very useful for us. Moyes using players out of position. Paqueta, Vlasic, Areola plays on the bench. Oh, well done. Sold Allaire and Anderson for a loss because they don't run. Moyes is a one-man deflation army. Peter, Hazy Jane, does the wife know your dream? Scarborough, good evening to you. On a positive note, it's good to see some of the academy players looking promising. Equa, Scarles, Mbama, Earthy, a lot of talent there. Absolutely. And I'm writing a bit about the development team. Some interesting things going on in the development team. Equa, massive prospect, massive. But then I've said that before, and then they've disappeared. Peter, the young players are not running away. Are running away, not walking away. Paul, I hope Scamacca finds a net soon. We need it. I do too. Mice, Loch Ness Monster story, good for tourism. Moyes should loiter in the Highlands and create a live dinosaur myth. Well, actually, reality in this case. What would you do? I'm going to ask this, constantly ask it. What would happen if Moyes turns it around in January and moving forward? How would everyone? Will they still say Dinosaur, don't want him here, even if he turns it around. Disabled team. Is wanting and demanding first team football. Aren't they all? Disabled team. He's a talent, but are West Ham going to put him straight in the first team? No. If not, you will have the same problem as us. But then again, Sonny Perkins left for first team football. He's not, what's he seen? 25 minutes of first team football so far? So it doesn't always work, does it? Black Country. Hazy Jane, oh my God, I would never admit to that. I like it. It's an ale. It's a proper ale. Well, Ponzi ale, but it's an ale. Trodge, Matt Scars looks twice the player Ashby already is. Yeah, plays on there. Absolutely. But then that's what we said about Longello. Scars, I'm going to talk about all these youngsters, so look out for that show. Scars, Longello, Ashby, not Ashby, Scars, Longello, Mbama, etc., etc. We've got some great prospects. Peter, Ashby still has a lot to learn. Has been sent off several times in the under-21s in the last couple of years. Sent off and injury prone as well. So, yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Peter, if we don't pick up our form, other clubs will snap up better youngsters. That's possible. Yeah, absolutely. Peter again. Are you sure Newman isn't scouting for girls? Oh, it's Chinese car. I got you now, Howard. Thank you for explaining. Ravel Morrison. That's who I was talking about. Thank you. James, lovely shows. Just cracked open another RG Malbec. And there you go. So people are taking the piss out of me for drinking beer. And James is sitting there drinking red wine. There you go. There you go. Malbec. The missus loves Malbec. She thinks it's great. Oh, I don't like red wine. Mice, Peter, more like form has been crap for 1 year and other clubs are snapping up the youngsters and eyeing the marquee signings. Oh, have faith, people. Good evening to you, Ian. How are you? Not a lot of clarity at West Ham for fans or players. It will all settle down when we get a run of wins. If we don't get that, then we need to be ruthless and sack Moyes. Yeah, I will agree with that. No, Howard. Absolutely no. Good evening, Epic. How are you? Moyes is not going to turn things around. Well, stranger things have happened. Schmeigel, the problem I have still is even if we do string a few good results together, the football won't change. I can't remember the last time I saw us dominate another team. I can. Last season, we were doing that. Certainly some parts of last season. Disabled team. Sonny Perkins have played more first-team football in a short time at Leeds. Yeah, no, you're incorrect, my son. You know, I've looked it up. I absolutely looked it up. He had quite a bit of game time at West Ham. Bits and pieces, but he did have quite a bit of game time. He's only played in one game, is my understanding, in the Carabao Cup. Am I wrong? Correct me if I am. Good evening to you, Stuart. How are you, mate? Nice of you to join. I think Moyes has to stay. Hi, still. I think Moyes has to stay. Mum is doing okay. Moyes has to stay. He's doing okay. Getting back from care. Okay. Oh, God. Should read the whole thing, shouldn't I? For Christmas lunch. I don't. Moyes has to stay. Mum is doing okay. Getting her back to. Oh, I got you, Stuart. I didn't understand. You said two things in one sentence. That's why I couldn't understand what you were talking about. I hope your mum's well. Thank you for telling me that. Really, I hope she's okay. My apologies. I misunderstood what you were trying to say. Trodge, do people really want Dyche? No. Do I think we'll get him? Quite possibly, yes. Moyes is no Alex Ferguson. We know that. He won't turn it around. We don't know that. For those with long memories, Fergie nearly got the sack, but saved from the FA Cup. Yes, I know. Fergie attacked when he had his back to the wall and Moyes. Let's see. We've scored 7 goals in the last 2 games. I know that's clutching. Because he is who will end up he is who will end up if Moyes is sacked. Who will end up? I think it'll be. Do people want Dyche? Yes, because it'll be. Yeah, that's who we'll get. Disabled team. You're correct, youngster. Thank you. I thought I was. Mice Collective. Why did Yarmolenko use regularly 2 or 3 minutes when he was smoking 60 fags a day? Why did Yarmolenko use regularly 2 or 3 minutes when he was smoking? I do not understand, Mice. I don't know what you mean. Sonny Perkins banning goals for the Leeds under-21s. He was banning goals for the West Ham under-21s. He might as well stay put. Trodge, sorry, trying to lying down is not good. Stuart, no worries. I've had beer or 2. Sorry, Stuart. I did myself. I hope your mother's well. I really do. And that brings me to the end of the show. Lee, thanks still on chat. Love your show. Thank you very much. Keep up good work. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Guys, girls, everyone, thank you all for watching. It's good to be back. I'll be back again during the week. I'll do a couple of short shows on a number of different themes. And then, of course, back to West Ham Weekly next week. Kept me on my toes as you always do. Really appreciate it. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Do watch out there in the snow and all that sort of stuff. Take care. Be careful. Don't drive your cars into the backs of other people and all that sort of stuff. Have a great week. See you all soon. And, well, that's it.